So a couple days ago, I went on Facebook Marketplace and I was able to find this guy right here. This is one that came in a lot of 4 or 5 watches at a price at about $20. And the other watches weren't really that special, so nothing to really talk about there. But this one in particular, I was interested in. This is a Seiko chronograph. It's a quartz watch. Sorry that the second hand is covering the Seiko logo, but this is a Seiko watch. It's a chronograph. It's a quartz watch. I don't really even know the model number. It's an older model for sure. I mean, this isn't really a particularly a famous watch or anything. It's not like a well-known watch. It's not an expensive watch at all. But I figured it's still a Seiko, and as a Seiko for like $20, seems like a pretty good deal. So I ended up picking it up anyways. The watch itself seems to be in pretty okay condition. I did put a battery in there and made sure that it works. The watch case itself does have quite a few scratches on it. So there's that. The bracelet that came with it was missing an end link. The bracelet was kind of nasty anyway, so I tossed it out. Yeah, overall the watch seems to be in okay condition. The watch works, but the one thing that really bugs me is the crystal. So you can see that the crystal is very scratched up. And one thing that I really dislike is scratched crystal. So I'm going to see if I can replace the crystal today. And while I'm doing that, I might as well just see if I can polish out the case as well to see if I can get it in back to a better condition. So in order to get this project going, you need a few things. So first off, you need a press. So this is a watch press. And I got this on Amazon for about, 20 something, $30, give or take. This is a very generic, press, nothing very spectacular or interesting about it. There are definitely more professional tools out there for this job, but this works just fine, and it comes in at a pretty affordable cost as well. I did read some Amazon reviews saying that some people did say that the hinge here is a little bit brittle, it's not very strong. So after a good number of presses, this does break. I personally haven't had that issue with this one myself. I have used this for several projects. I have popped crystals in and out. I've also popped some of those case backs. Some watches have those pressed down case backs. I've popped some of those back on before as well, and this seems to be working just fine. So, pick your poison, right? I mean, there's other tools out there. Also, for this, we need some kind of a way to pop open the case back. So this one is a screw down case back. You can see from the indentations on the side. So I have this little guy right here. This I also got from Amazon. It was like $5. And this lets you adjust the diameter of the little pins to put this into the screw on back and then unscrew it. Again, there are more professional tools out there. There are better quality tools out there. You can use this thing. It's like a little rubber ball that you can use to like push down and turn the back as well. This seems to be working fine for me. It was cheap. It works. So no complaints there. So there's that. There's the press over here. You need this. This is a little like pin thing. This is for pushing out the links on a bracelet, but we're going to need this to push out the stem of the crown. So you're going to need something small. Just one of them is fine. Small like this. You can use a sewing needle. That works as well, but something to just push little tiny areas up. You also need tweezers. These are important. So you can use this to grab things and pick things out and whatnot. So a set of tweezers as well. A few microfiber cloths for cleaning. We also need the replacement parts, right? So this is the replacement crystal for it. Got it on Amazon. Hilariously, I opened it up and I realized that the crystal just comes like this. No protection, nothing, no foam, nothing. It just comes loose inside the box like that, rattling around. Hilarious, but that's what happens when you buy stuff from China on Amazon, right? So this is a sapphire crystal. I'm pretty sure this one's mineral crystal, but this is sapphire. Just because, like I said, I really dislike scratches on crystals. And so if I can try to mitigate that and reduce that as much as possible, I will try to do that. So got a sapphire crystal. Also, sapphire crystals nowadays aren't really that expensive. You can get them, again, from China on Amazon or eBay for, fairly affordable cost. So it's, I think it's worth doing the upgrade. One thing to note that is that, if you have a watch like this and you want to pop out the crystal, look online to make sure that you have the correct measurements for that crystal. If you cannot, if it's like this watch where it's not very popular, there's really no specs for the crystal size, measuring the watch crystal on the case itself like this isn't very accurate. So when I measured like this, I got about 31.5 millimeters. But the thing is that there's actually a little space on the edge where there's a gasket. So to doing it this way, not very accurate. You really do have to pop the crystal out and measure the crystal itself. And also when you do that, you can also measure the thickness of it as well, and you can order the exact size that that the current one is using, right? So this one, I measured it here. It was 31.5, but when I popped it out, it was actually 31 millimeters. So there you go. So just be more accurate and pop the crystal out. Don't be lazy. So you need the replacement parts. You also need, since I'm going to be polishing the case, you need some kind of a polish. So in this case, I'm going to be using this right here. This is Mother's mag and aluminum polish. There is an official product for, typically people use for polishing watches and other soft metals like jewelry and stuff like that. It's called Cape Cod. And you can get it in a small pack for about $11. You can get it in a larger pack for about $30. And that seems to be the thing that people use. It seems to work great in some of the other videos I've seen. But for my purpose, I have this lying around. This is just kind of like a general polish for metals and aluminum products. I have this lying around, so I don't want to spend more money buying other things. Again, this is just like a cheap $20 watch that I got, a beater watch basically, and I'm already getting a sapphire crystal for it, so I don't want to like spend too much money doing other things. So I have this lying around. I have used this for like stuff like iPods. On the old iPods, if you guys remember, it has like a metal back. I've used it for that, and it works very well. So, I'm going to see if this works for this watch as well. So a few things to note, though, is that it does say, like, you shouldn't use it for painted or coated metals. If you have, like, plated chrome or gold-plated stuff, don't use it for it as well. Also, when you use this product and you're, like, polishing, there should be black residue buildup. That's normal. When you don't see that, it says to stop polishing because it means that metal is non-polishable. So keep that in mind. So we have this, and that's pretty much it. So with that, you can start the project. Okay, so to keep things clean, I'm just gonna put a little piece of cardboard here so I don't get the table all messy. Okay, so let's start. So let's first take the back of the case out. So I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna measure the size of the back, lining up these pins, and then just unscrew it. So again, I have been in this watch before because I have gone in and switched the battery or put a battery in just to make sure it works. So I have been in here before, so it comes out like that, and then that's the inside of the watch. So that's where the battery goes, and then this is also the stem for the crown. So we're gonna have to take this stem out in order to get the inside of this watch off the case. So for these watches, there's actually a little area. In this case, it's right here. This one in particular, it actually has a label that says push, and it's pointing into this little opening right here. If you look at this point on my tweezer, it's pointing to this little opening right here. I want to see if I can take a close-up photo for you guys, but it's pointing to this little hole right here. And when you actually push down on that, you can actually unlatch the crown. So in order to do that, you first need to put the crown in the first position. So when you do that, you will notice that there's a little tiny thing that pops into place when you pull it to the first position. There's a thing that pops into view. Normally when you have it all the way pushed in, it's hidden. So when you pull it out, it pops into view, and then you just push down on that and you can pull the crown out. So if your quartz watch looks like this, that's what you do. Again, not all quartz watches do look like this though. There are some quartz watches that are a little bit more simple. Okay, so here's another quartz watch. This is a lot simpler of a watch compared to that, right? So you can tell. This is just a cheap generic watch that I have lying around. This one in particular doesn't have a label that says push, but what I realize is that usually on these watches, the area to push is this little dimple right here on this metal bar, essentially. On the end of this metal bar, there's a little dimple. That's where you push down. But of course, again, like I said, you first have to pull the crown out to this first position before you can do that. In this case, this crown only goes to one position. So I'm going to spin it around really quickly. It's going to only go to one position. So I'm going to pull it out to this first and only position. And I'm going to take my tweezers, or I can take one of these little guys, these little pins, and I'm just going to push down on that dimple, and that should release the stem like so. So on these watches, these Seiko watches, the area to push is going to be not the bar with the dimple. It's going to be in this little opening right here. Again, it's hard to see, I know, but when you pop the crown out to the first position, you'll see a little thing that pops into place right here. Stick your little pin in there, push down on it, and then you can easily get the crown out like so. There you go. And there's the crown. And then with this, I think you should grab some kind of a container, some kind of a box or something. Just keep it in there for safekeeping. You'll need it later. Just try not to get dust or any like hair or anything in there. It should be good. So there you go. The crown is out. And then with this, you're going to grab your tweezers and you're going to just gently try to lift the entire watch out. There you go. So the watch is released. And then with this, I'm just going to quickly flip it over. Now this is the dial. Obviously, this is really nice and pristine condition because dust shouldn't be in there. So with this, you should put it in a safe place, like in this box, for example. Just keep it in there, close it up. Again, make sure that there's no dust or any contaminants that gets into there. Okay, so what are we missing here? So right now in this watch, there's actually a chapter ring and there's a gasket on the inside, but that actually goes out this way. So in order to get the chapter ring and the gasket out, we need to actually pop the crystal out first. So that's where the press comes in. Okay, so here we go. So that's the press. The press comes with a bunch of these dies. So they're called dies, essentially just these little plastic things in the shape of a circle. So the idea here is that you're going to have, you can see that there's actually a little indent on each one of these dies. These dies have a screw on the inside that screws onto the threads here on the bottom and the top of this clamp, this press. The idea here is that so you're going to find the right die that fits into the opening of the watch that you're pushing. So in this case, this one would fit fine. This one is 28 millimeters. It fits in here fine. And then you're going to find one that fits the bottom of the watch. I believe something like this would be okay. So make sure that the edge of this doesn't obstruct the crystal right here. It shouldn't be sitting on the crystal, but it should sit on the edge of the case because the crystal is going to fall and it's going to fall into this little indent right here. So something like this works fine. This one should be okay as well. Yeah, something like this was fine. So this is 40 millimeters, should hit the outside of that case. And then 28 millimeters hits the inside of the case here where the crystal is. So depending on your scenario, you try to find a die that hits the edge, as close to the edge as possible of the crystal. Don't find one that's too small that only concentrates all the pressure into the middle of the crystal, because when you do that and you press down, it's most likely going to shatter the crystal or break it or crack it or whatnot. So try to get a die that fits as close to the edge of the crystal as possible. Now in this case, obviously we have a chapter ring that's blocking the edge, so we're going to use this one right here that is as close to it as possible. But again, don't use like a 20 millimeter or 24 millimeter. That's just too far away. So we're going to take this 40 millimeter, we're going to screw it onto the bottom of this press. There you go. I'm going to take this 28 and then we're going to put it onto the top of this press like so. So all you have to do now is just put the watch on, line it up, push down onto it, make sure that you're getting the crystal and not the chapter ring, and then push down. Okay, so we're going to put the chapter ring and the little gasket to the side here, and now we have just the case itself. Okay, so we're going to try to polish this out. So in order to do that, we're going to grab our mother's polish. Oh my God, it's crusty. It's been in here for a little while now, so maybe it's not going to work. So who knows what's going to happen. So I'm just going to grab a little bit and yeah, let's see if it works. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to start polishing. Now I noticed that as I'm looking at this, I noticed that there are some areas here and here that is actually brushed stainless steel. So maybe we'll try to refinish that later on. But for now, I'm just going to put some tape on those sides to try to mitigate that from accidentally getting polished. Okay, so essentially what I'm doing is I'm just taping out the sides here, and I'm just gonna polish this, and maybe here a little bit. It is gonna be a little hard to get to the buttons and whatnot, but I'm gonna try to get to this side first, and try to see what I can get out, and then again not hit the area where there's brushed stainless steel. Okay, so let's see how that's gonna work out. So grab your little polish with your cloth. Dab that in there. This might be a little bit too much actually. So you don't really need a lot of pressure, just use gentle pressure and just start polishing. And again, there you go, there's the black residue. So you should be getting that. That is normal, as I mentioned, as it mentions in the box actually, on the container. When you get that, that means that that item, that metal is polishable. When you don't have the black residue, that means that that item is not polishable, and you just stop polishing immediately. Okay, so after all of that, I did cut the camera, but that was about, I would say maybe 40 minutes of polishing and cleaning together. We have a result like this. Now, this obviously isn't gonna be fully polished out in terms of all the scratches and whatnot, but this is pretty good. I mean, there's a significant increase in shine quality to it. It is a lot. It does look a lot cleaner. So a few things that I learned from using that polish, that mother's polish that I showed you guys, is that first off, it does work. It will probably require a few number of passes before you can get out all of the micro scratches. In this case, you can clearly see that there is still, maybe we can do a close up for you guys, but you can still clearly see that there is a number of micro scratches still on here. But you know, it does look significantly shinier and more polished. So I am, happy enough with this. I mean, I'm not going to go into too much in terms of polishing, but it does work overall. So that's a good thing. It does require a number of passes to get it to be fully scratch free. But even after around 2 passes, it is significantly shinier to look at. So it is good. The other thing that I learned though is that it does get pretty messy because it is a paste of some sort. So once you start polishing, it's going to get into all the nooks and crannies, like inside of the screw threads, inside of these little lug holes up here. So it does get pretty darn messy. When you clean it afterwards, you have to kind of go through and clean it thoroughly, getting maybe like a little needle to pick out all the polish that got stuck into the little holes here and in here, for example. So it does require a little bit of extra work to clean off, whereas the Cape Cod that I mentioned earlier, that is it's like a piece of cloth, a piece of fabric that already has a solution already inside of it. So it's basically like a wet wipe almost, but it has the properties that can be used to polish out metal. So I think that might be a little bit cleaner, whereas this being a paste, it gets pretty darn messy when using it for stuff like this. And also because it requires me to get into these little areas, I'm not able to really polish the little crevices in here very well. With that, even this lug right here, I can get to it, but I can't really get to it enough to get out the scratches because it is hard to work in this area. Whereas on this area, it's a lot easier to kind of go back and forth. It is what it is. So this is what it looks like. Again, like I mentioned, it is better, but obviously it's not going to be perfect. If you work at it a little bit more, you'll probably get a better result than I did. But here it is. Also, as I mentioned, these lugs here are brushed stainless steel. I did try to use a piece of sandpaper. It was 100 grit, and I did try to like brush it in the direction of the brush finished on this original watch. Kind of screwed up a little bit. I kind of got a little bit of it wasn't a very good finish on my end. Also, I find that 100 grit is a little bit too rough. Maybe like 250 or 300 or 400 or whatnot might be a little bit better. I don't have it, unfortunately, so I just did the one side, realized that I kind of made it worse than what it was, so I just left it. So regardless, if you want to, finish up your brushed stainless steels, then you might need to use a higher grit sandpaper, or I've seen some people use like scoring pads, the ones that you use for kitchens and whatnot. That may also work as well. Oh, and this is also the case back. As you can see, still quite a bit of scratches on it, but it's a lot shinier than what it was before. So anyways, Putting it back together is as easy as 3, 2, 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting on the, let's see, the chapter ring. Yes, that is important because we took the chapter ring out before we took the crystal out. So we're going to do that. So chapter ring, essentially, you have a little groove on one of the backside on one of the ends of the chapter ring. So in this case, that little groove here. Again, might be a little bit difficult to see, but there should be a little groove up here on one of the sides. So just look at your chapter ring. Essentially, there's going to be a little spot with a little like groove or a little like indent to indicate that's where it aligns to the case, so it doesn't move around in there, right? So on the case, just match it up and then drop it in, and it should fall into place perfectly. Okay, I had to do that off camera because it's a little bit difficult to do that while looking at the monitor screen. So I'm going to grab that, and afterwards I'm going to grab the gasket here, and I'm going to put it onto the chapter ring on top of it. I don't believe that this has an orientation. It's just a little thing to kind of get in between the edge and hold everything in place. So let me do this off camera. Okay, so if you have one of these little things lying around, these are this is called a rocket blower. These are typically used for photography, for cameras and lenses. Just give that a little blow to get all the dust out. More or less should be okay. So I'm going to put that inside, and then there you go. So the chapter ring is in, the gasket is in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put the crystal in. So let's do this. So what we're going to do is we're going to press down on this press, right? So what we're going to need to do is we're going to have to put the watch face up, which means this one right here needs to fit the edge of the crystal, and then this one needs to fit the bottom of the case. So let's see here. Does this 40 millimeters still work on the bottom of the case? Yes, it should be okay as long as it hits all the sides. That should be fine. So we can leave that here. But I do want to switch out the top die here because, as I mentioned before, when we pushed it from the inside, there was a chapter ring in the way, but obviously as I'm pushing it from the outside, we don't have that issue. So I'm going to switch it out to a slightly bigger die. Hopefully that can be a little bit better. Hopefully I don't end up breaking anything. So this one looks to be pretty good. 31 millimeters looks to be, yeah, pretty good for the outside diameter. It would be nice if I had a 30 millimeter. Let's see here. This is a 24, 26. Yeah, so I think this is probably the best bet. So 31 millimeters. I'm just going to screw this onto the top of this. I'm sorry if I end up doing all this stuff out of frame. It's difficult to do this when you're on camera and you're looking at the screen. I'm very far away from everything I'm working on. So I'm going to put that there. And then I'm going to grab the crystal. Now this crystal is supposedly, it should, in theory, have two sides to it. But it didn't specify on the website, or not the website, sorry, on Amazon, I should say. It didn't specify, so I don't really exactly know which side is which. Just gonna grab a microfiber cloth, just clean it off. Yeah, so it's quite disappointing to see that the crystal is just put in the box like that. I do notice that the crystal isn't in the best condition because of that. And it looks like there's like tiny little like micro scratches on it. So I don't know. Is this really sapphire? Unfortunately, I don't have a way to tell, but hopefully it is. Regardless, we're going to get a new crystal. We're going to put it on, and it should look better than what it was before, at least. So we'll see what happens. This might not actually be sapphire. Who knows? Again, I don't know which way is top, which way is bottom. Typically, there is a difference because the coating may be on a different side. But in this case, I don't really know. So we're just going to have to it doesn't say on the website, it doesn't say on anything. So I'm just going to have to go with the flow. So I'm going to put the crystal inside of the watch, make sure it's aligned. I know it's hard to see, but I put the case in there. I put the crystal on the case, and I'm just going to grab a little piece of cloth like so, and I'm going to put it over top just because I don't want to potentially scratch anything. Now, the difficult thing here is that you need to make sure everything's lined up too. And we need to make sure everything's straight. So hopefully this doesn't end up shattering. That is my main concern. Okay, let's be very gentle. I'm gonna push down on it. Okay. Let's see if anything happened. So it is in there, but it's not in there fully. So let me push it again. Okay. So ideally you want to hear like a little pop, but I didn't get that, unfortunately. Which doesn't necessarily mean it's not in. It's just, it might not be. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not in. It could still be in. It's just, you unfortunately don't get the sound. Yeah, so I've had scenarios where I have gotten the sound before. Like you do get a little pop sound when it goes in there, but in this case, I didn't, unfortunately. But it looks like it's fully seated, which is good. It's flush, which is nice. Looks good. And yeah, like I said, you have to make sure you get a die that fits just around the edge of that case. Or sorry, the crystal. So when you push it in, it's not concentrating the pressure in the middle of it, but it's hitting the sides, and that should go in perfectly fine. You have to make sure it's straight, it's not like tilted or angled, because when you do that, then it's going to have an issue. You might have to also rotate the watch case inside here as well. As you press down, it might not fully seat, then you have to rotate it to another orientation and then push it down again, like what I just did earlier. So it just helps it get in a little bit easier. So after that, we're gonna do a little bit of this rocket blower just to get some of that dust out, and then we're going to grab our dial. It's a good idea to give this a quick blow as well, just to make sure that there's no dust on it, because if there is, it's going to be annoying. You're going to have to fetch it out again. Yeah, it's not fun. So we're going to orient this with the 3 o'clock position going this way, because that's where the crown is. We're going to drop that in. And it should be pretty well seated, just to make sure that the 3 buttons do line up. Okay, there you go. Again, difficult to do on camera. That's why I need to look a little bit closer. Yeah, so with that, I'm going to grab the stem with the crown on it, feed it through, and it should just go in without any issues. So there you go. Press that in, and it's great. Now I was going to grab the battery, and then I'm going to put the battery back in as well. Okay, so the battery's in. It's good. Make sure the watch is ticking, and on close inspections, it looks like it is. So great. All right, so I'm going to put it in, and then let's just give this another quick blow. Get all the little dust out, if there is any, hopefully none. And then we can close the case back up. Actually, before I fully close this, let's just double check and make sure that I don't have any dust on the dial. Give me a second. Yep, we're good. Looks good, looks clean, at least clean enough for my standards. We're gonna screw that back in, and then we're gonna grab the little tool again, just to tighten it up. Tighten that up, there you go. And there you have it. There is a watch almost like brand new, with a brand new crystal on it, a polishing job done, and also I guess a little bit of a sandpaper work here on one of the corners, even though it's a kind of a failed attempt. But regardless, there you go. There is a restored Seiko quartz chronograph. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys like this kind of video? Let me know in the comments section below. If you guys, if this helped you guys in restoring your watch, feel free to give me a like, subscribe to the channel. See you guys next time.